Hey everyone, it's Caleb and Elaine from KEJ Productions, and today we're extremely excited to talk about the Zoom F2 that we just got in.
Yes, finally. There's so much buzz about this recorder, specifically in the wedding industry. So hey, we're gonna jump right in. We're not gonna waste any time. Here's your guide to the Zoom F2. All right, Jimenez.
You need to breathe is what you need to. You're all nervous and stuff.
I'm not nervous. I literally can't breathe.
So we're gonna talk about the physical attributes of this thing. It's tiny, y'all. Compared to the DR10L, there it is. It's so tiny, look at it. It has an input and an output, just like the DR10L.
Now that's one thing of note. The input and the output are right next to each other. And I don't know how you feel about it. I know I was kind of like, that's user error waiting to happen. Like, so you just really have to pay attention. And I'm especially wondering, like, as you use this device over and over, like how quickly those labels will wear out. So it's just something to be super mindful of, that your input, where your mic actually plugs into, is on the outside most part of the unit.
Yeah,
Pay
otherwise you're gonna be recording some 32-bit float goodness of nothing. You have your normal like play buttons, your stop button, your output volume, plus minus. I mean, we're not really gonna be monitoring this because we have the F2 BT, which is the Bluetooth. So I'm able to monitor off of my phone. I can punch and record. I can do a lot of stuff. I can relabel the take names, anything. Sometimes whenever I was going back to relabel the file names, the app was a little bit slow.
A little glitchy.
I don't want to say glitchy. It's just like, yeah, you have to go back and forth in order for it to get to the labeling of the name, which when we were doing these tests, I was like, okay, let me get in there and I want to label it fast and get back and get to recording. And that's just something that you can't do quickly, I found, with the app.
What makes this recorder so different from maybe the Tascam that has ruled the industry for like the last 3 years?
Yeah, well, and I would say the Bluetooth, having control from your phone, is probably the biggest benefit to this, other than the 32-bit float.
You guys know how I feel about 32-bit float and videographers specifically. It's not that I don't think 32-bit float is great. It's just 32-bit float is awesome. I just see people misuse it. We're gonna get into that though.
The micro SD card. It's really easy to get in and it's kind of a pain to get out. Just because of how the door lays, it's not convenient.
Is that thing gonna break off eventually? You think?
No, I think it's pretty solid, and I think because it's so solid, that's why it's so hard to get the SD card out. Pretty straightforward. You can't really screw it up unless, again, you put the microphone on the output.
If there's something that just lends itself to user error, we'll just tape over an output or an input that I know I'm never gonna use. And in this case, since we do have the Bluetooth capability, like we're not really gonna plug headphones into that, I would put tape over it just because wedding days go so fast. It's just one way to eliminate that user error.
Now, the cool thing I would say about the output though, it's so convenient that it's a twist lock, because then you can twist lock an output into, say, a wireless transmitter, and now you have a recorder hitting it, but you're also hitting another transmitter to be able to hit to your camera or something like that.
Now with live stream, that comes super in handy.
Yeah.
Because with live stream, we're taking our record feeds off of like the Rode, wireless that we have, and so you can come out of this into that unit and transmit wirelessly to our streaming service.
With one lav.
With one lavalier.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the actual lavalier, I'm comparing this to the DR10L's lavalier, and you will see, even from there, kind of see, it's a little bit chunkier. They're just bigger,
It is big. I mean, that was one of the things that you said when you first opened it. You were like, look at this lavalier. And I was like, I don't think it's...
Have you ever seen, you remember those old ones? You remember whenever they first came out with the like original lavs and they were like this necklace? You can use the Tascam DR10L with this F2. It's the same 1/8" twist lock. The one thing that we did notice is that there was a significant input gain of discrepancy from the microphones.
And in that case, the Tascam lavalier just has a lower sensitivity level. So it's gonna come in a little bit lower than the kit microphone that comes with the Zoom F2. Since you're recording in 32-bit float, that's not necessarily that big of a deal. I think the discrepancy was maybe 6 dB.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't anything that I was like, oh gosh, about. But it's just something to be aware of. We'll probably likely still use our kit mics from the Tascams just because we know what they sound like. They work, they're pretty sturdy.
And they're a little bit smaller.
And they're smaller.
I didn't test the SPL rating comparatively, but I think this one has like 115.
Yeah.
Something. It's pretty good.
We did test it.
But we did test it.
And we did distort it.
And I'm gonna yell,
Woo! And see if that clips it.
and we distorted it and it was not recoverable. But again, what we're using this for, no one's gonna be like, "Ah!" and like yelling into the mic, but I did just because I wanted to see what was going on. It's not that we were clipping a 32-bit file, is that we're clipping the actual microphone.
Which brings me to the next point. So I've been stalking on the forums recently, and this is a question that comes up so consistently, is that when this Zoom F2 was announced, videographers immediately started wondering if they could use this device to plug into DJs. So essentially just use an 1/8 inch adapter to XLR and take a record feed from the DJ into this recorder. We tested that. This is how it went.
Back to you. I can't lose this time. And no matter what I do, I can't lose my
You heard we were testing it in all different manners. We're using pink noise, we used room tone, we used a tone generator with this thing called a pink stick, and we're able to send just a full spectrum noise to the actual recorder at whatever level we wanted to. We spent a whole bunch of time at 1K tone, which is just like a boo sine wave tone, and we sent it straight at different levels as well. And then we did music at different levels as well.
So let's compare this to the F6, because the F6 is really, the Zoom F6 is where everybody like freaked out, and I saw a ton of people saying, oh, it's like recording raw audio, or you can't clip the file and blah, blah, blah. Here's the deal, 32-bit float wave files, the format that you're recording into, is essentially non-clippable in comparison to the standard, which is 24-bit linear. However, before the audio file actually gets to the wave, it goes through gain stages, and one of those gain stages is the A to D conversion. Mm-hmm. In a device like an F6, it is capable of seeing the signal that's coming at it, whether it's a jet plane or someone whispering or a cricket.
In our case, a microphone lavalier or a DJ.
Or a DJ. And it will automatically adjust the gain stage to the level it's seeing. That is where the F6 and this guy differ. While the F2 does have dual A to D converters, it is not capable, and I've read this in the manual, it is not capable of receiving a max input more than minus 5.5 dBu. Now this is getting, I know, into the nitty gritty of audio theory, but here's what that means. It's capable of seeing a mic signal, very low mic signals, and a very hot mic signal. When you start going into DJs, what we call line level, that comes in at plus 4 dBu, which is significantly hotter than minus 5 dBu. That's the max that this recorder can take. So the short answer is that if you're taking your F2 to a reception and you're wanting to plug this into your DJ, it will not work.
Based on all of our tests and our conclusion of this is not meant to take a input from a DJ. And we knew that coming in, but everybody was so up in arms about this of like, well, you can just plug this in and it's 32-bit float and it'll work and everything. That's wrong, it's not gonna work. The difference between this and the F6 is that these A to D converters, based off of the white papers, were built for lavalier microphones. They're not built for line level. So that being said, like the F6 their ADD converters are built for both microphone and line level. Based on everything that we teach and our philosophy, we're doing fine with what we have because proper mic placement, proper gain structure is going to save us more than a 32-bit float device. Now, I love this device. I think it's really cool. It's very small. I love that it has an app.
It's easy. I love the fact that it doesn't have like an input level.
It's plug and play.
It's plug and play. So that in itself, like, I mean, we have had rare occasions. It hasn't happened often where we have clipped a DR10, rare. It's just really hard, we found, to clip this if your gain structure is correct and if you really understand that. Now, having that said, I love this in the case of like, I won't ever have to worry about that.
It takes away those moments of like uncertainty of, oh man, did I put my DR10L in to record?
Yes.
And it's like, okay, there it goes. And now I can like pop my phone up and be like, yeah, it's recording, no big deal. What else is there to say? I mean, we did some tests as far as noise floor, and I don't know that we'll get into it. This seemed to have a very, very clean noise floor with just the lavalier compared to the Tascam DR10L. There's been some questions about like, well, how do the preamps, this is whenever the nerds come out. It's like, how do the preamps sound compared? And it's like, well, we're not on an SSL, we're not on a Midas console. Like these preamps, man, they just do the job. It's like pixel peeping, you know what I'm saying? Is there a noticeable difference between a Midas Heritage H3000 console that's like a grandfather, it's amazing console, and this? There's definitely a difference between these two. But for wedding films and what we're doing, where we just need clean audio.
Ooh, that is something of note though. So we talked about, you know, the extreme dynamic range and being able to raise the volume of something that's recorded very low without, you know, the noise floor really coming up. That refers to the device's noise floor. And what I mean by that is if you're in a noisy location, I just threw the thing. Let me pick it back up. That's how small it is. Anyway. Okay, let me bring it back up. As I was saying, if you're in a noisy location, like you're outside and there's birds in the trees, like you're still going to get that noise floor raise along with the vocal you're trying to raise. So don't think that this is a save all for that either. Like you still need to do your due diligence to make sure or at least try to get recordings in a space that have a low noise floor.
Yeah.
If you can. Weddings, it's impossible, you know? If you're doing an elopement and it's just two people you have to reason with, they're like, I'm gonna get married outside this waterfall. And I'm like, okay, let me tell you how that'll impact your sound. That's one thing. You know, large weddings, you're probably not gonna be able to deal with it. And you just deal with it, you know, because it's a live event.
Sure. If you guys like this video, please like it.
Like it
and subscribe
because we have way more of this coming. If some of this dialogue actually flew over your head, we have an audio masterclass that is specifically for wedding filmmakers, built just for you to elevate the quality of your films by elevating your audio game. So if some of the stuff we talked about, like line level versus mic level, or A to D conversion and gain stages, if that stuff just flew over your head, you need to get the masterclass, and that's linked below in the description.
Thanks guys for watching. We're so excited you're here, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye guys.